everyone, I hope you're doing well, and of course Arnie does too. Now in today's video I'll be going through 5 more of some of the largest saltwater fish in the world, and this is now number 2 in the series, so I've already been through 5 of some of the largest saltwater fish in the world. And to start off today's video, we'll head over to the tropical and subtropical waters as we have the giant oceanic manta ray. Now this species is the largest species of ray in the world, but for many decades there were thought to be only one species of manta ray in the world. But relatively recently, scientists divided them into 2 separate species. The giant manta ray, which is more of an oceanic species, and the reef manta ray, which prefers coastal waters. But unlike many other species of saltwater rays, they don't hug the ocean floor and actually swim in mid-water. And although they don't look anything like the previously featured basking shark and whale shark, they do feed in a similar way, as they constantly swim along with their mouths open, filtering out large quantities of plankton and other microfoods. But compared to the plankton-eating sharks, giant manta rays have very small mouths. So to help them get through more plankton, they have specialized flaps on the front of their face, which help direct more water and food into their mouths. And manta rays are the only living vertebrates with 3 paired appendages: their 2 wing-like pectoral fins, their gills, and the 2 lobes at the front of their face. They also have a very unconventional way of moving through the water, as it's almost like they're flapping their wings, flying through the ocean. But although giant manta rays spend most of their time near the surface of the water, they can dive down to around 1,000 meters deep, or around 3,300 feet. But giant manta rays are also very vulnerable to extinction, as they're often caught as bycatch in large fishing nets. But they are very valuable to the tourism industry, as understandably many people like to dive with this species. But manta rays are affected by fishing a lot more than many other species, as they have a very slow reproductive rate, as female giant manta rays give birth to 1 pup every 2 to 3 years. But thanks to their popularity with scuba divers, the money generated through tourism can go towards developing more protection for this species, and hopefully will ensure that they don't continue to decline. But this fish is called the giant manta ray for a reason, as its wingspan can measure up to 8.8 meters wide, or around 29 feet. And at this size they weigh around 2,400 kilograms, or around 5,300 pounds. And to put that into perspective, that's around the same weight as a white rhinoceros or a short-finned pilot whale. So even though this fish is a giant, it still manages to be very graceful. But for our next species, we'll be moving over to the shallow tropical waters, as we have the Goliath grouper. Now this species can be found in many tropical waters, including the Florida Keys, Bahamas and the Caribbean, just to name a few. Now the Goliath grouper is the largest grouper in the Western Hemisphere, and it tends to be a solitary species throughout most of the year. But when it comes time to spawn, large groups of around 100 Goliath groupers congregate together to spawn, and all Goliath groupers are believed to be born female, and then at some point in their lifespans change sex to male, as most other species of grouper follow this pattern, but it has not yet been verified in the Goliath grouper. And when this species starts off its life, they're normally found in brackish estuaries and mangrove swamps, as this is a much safer habitat to live in when you're a smaller fish. And when they mature into adults, they go through a bit of a colour change, as they lose a bit of their camouflage and patterning to become a slightly duller colour. Groupers have very large mouths, and even though they do have teeth, they tend to swallow their prey whole, and you'd have to think if they got much bigger, they'd be able to swallow a person. And even though it can swallow surprisingly large prey such as small sharks, 85% of their diet mostly consists of crustaceans, with the remaining 15% being made up of slow-moving fish. But Goliath groupers are very vulnerable to overfishing, as they tend to live a generally sedentary lifestyle, and as I mentioned, gather in very large numbers when it's time to spawn. But because of this, around the waters of Florida, if you catch a Goliath grouper, you must return it to the water unharmed. But judging by the size of this fish, it's not going to be easy to put it on your boat anyway, as they're thought to reach a maximum size of around 2.5 meters, or around 8.2 feet. And at this size they weigh around 360 kilograms, or around 800 pounds. And to put that into perspective, that's around the same weight as a dugong or a leopard seal. So there really is a reason to have Goliath in their name. But for our next species, we'll be moving over to the Atlantic Ocean, as we have the Atlantic blue marlin. Now there are actually quite a few species of marlin, but the Atlantic blue marlin is the biggest of all of them. And this species spends most of its time far out at sea, normally near the surface of the water, as they normally feed on mackerel and tuna, but they've also been known to dive into deep waters to hunt squid. And they're very well equipped to hunt these prey items, as not only are they one of the fastest fish in the ocean, but they also have a very long bill, and they use these almost like spears to slash through dense shoals of fish or to knock individual fish off balance so they're easier to hoover up. And the breeding history of the Atlantic blue marlin isn't well known. They're thought to spawn near Cuba, and the eggs are thought to hatch within a week of spawning. And these tiny baby marlin are very cute small fish, and even though they don't have their bill when they hatch, it soon develops, and they look like miniatures of the adults. And this species is a very popular sport fish, as they're known to put up a very good fight, and they regularly jump out of the water. But this species isn't quite at the top of the food chain, as they're still preyed upon by large pelagic predators, such as great white sharks and short-fin mako sharks. And in the marlin world, females get a lot larger than males, as females are thought to reach a maximum size of around 5 meters, or around 16.4 feet. And at this size they weigh around 818 kilograms, or 1,800 pounds. And to put that into perspective, that's around the same weight as a false killer whale or a water buffalo. So because of this size and power, it's no wonder why they're such a prized sport fish. But for our next species, we'll be moving over to the coastal waters of all major oceans, as we have the great white shark. Now the great white shark is probably the most feared shark in our oceans, and this is understandable, as they're thought to be one of the largest active predatory fish, as it's only really rivaled by the beluga sturgeon. But the great white shark isn't the only member of its family, as it's also related to mako sharks, porbeagles, and the salmon shark. But they obviously got their name of great white from their bright underbelly, but this is some very effective coloration, as it tends to inhabit surface waters, and if viewed from below, its white belly blends in with the sky, but when you look down on it from above, its darker coloration blends in with the ocean bottom. And this is a clue into their very effective feeding style, as they normally approach their prey from below before attacking it at great speeds, and even sometimes leaving the water completely. And this prey can be a wide range of animals, anything from fish such as tuna and other sharks, to marine mammals such as seals, dolphins, and in some cases whales. And in most cases they are top of the food chain wherever they decide to live. But there are some rare instances where great white sharks are preyed upon by killer whales. And unsurprisingly, great white sharks aren't great parents, as females give birth to around 2 to 10 pups, and in some cases the mother will even try and eat her own pups. But even though shark attacks on humans are very rare, the great white shark is usually the main culprit. And of course, sharks should never be demonized, as they play an important role in the ecosystem. And it feels like I repeat this in every video, but 100 million sharks are killed by humans every single year. But the great white is thought to reach a maximum size of around 6.4 meters, or around 21 feet. And at this size they weigh around 1,900 kilograms, or around 4,200 pounds. And to put that into perspective, that's around 2 long-finned pilot whales, or around 4 polar bears. So it's a very respectable size for the largest predatory fish. But for our next species, we'll be moving over to the Indian, the Pacific, and the Atlantic Oceans, as we have the Megamouth shark. Now, as I've covered before, there are 3 filter-feeding sharks: the whale, the basking, and the Megamouth. But the Megamouth is actually the smallest of these 3 species, and is definitely the rarest. And it's clear to see that this is one of the weirdest sharks in the world, as it has a dull, broad, round snout with a large rubbery mouth and lips, and it uses its large mouth to feed on plankton and jellyfish. And their strange feeding habits may be the reason why so few people have sighted them, as in the day they tend to be found in the deep ocean, normally at a depth of around 120 to 160 meters deep. But as the sun sets, the Megamouth shark ascends through the water column and feeds on plankton at depths of around 12 to 25 meters. And the first Megamouth shark ever discovered was captured by accident, as it became entangled in a sea anchor attached to deep naval equipment. But this strange rare shark can reach very large sizes, as they're thought to reach a maximum length of around 5.5 meters, or around 18 feet. And at this size they weigh around 1,215 kilograms, around 2,700 pounds. And to put that into perspective, that's around the same weight as a narwhal or a Sumatran rhinoceros. So although it's not the largest fish on this list, it probably is the rarest. But that's about it for this video. If you have any other large saltwater fish that you want me to cover in these videos, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to feature them in the next video. But thanks for watching. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like these. And until next time, goodbye.